Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Superliminal podcast conversation with the incredible Dan Willis. If you've not seen part 1, please do go back and watch that first. You can find the link somewhere in the description around this video, where Dan talks about the hidden disclosure process in terms of the fact that we're not alone in this universe, and also the tech that's been hidden, but also our connection with our non-human family that has gone back for millennia on this planet, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, but in recent times has been squashed, and we've been programmed to believe that actually we're just all alone spinning on this tiny beautiful rock in the middle of space, and nothing can be further from the truth. So in part 2, and you can watch this individually, but I do highly recommend watching part 1 first if you've not seen it. In part 2, we're going to be talking about the crystal technology, the medbed technology, and a lot of the work that Dan is doing with a Pleiadian scientist, I believe it's Pleiadian, I hope I've got that right, called Jen Han Eredyon. Now, his older brother, Thor Han Eredyon, is working very closely with a lady called Elena Danaan, who's closely connected to the Galactic Federation of Worlds, who are working with people like Trump and what are known as the White Hats globally. So basically people in the banking, military, industrial, commercial, pharmaceutical complex, especially working in the deep underground military bases, who are actually on side with helping humanity to step into its next phase of evolution that's been suppressed for thousands of years, but in recent times, as Stephen Greer said in his excellent recent documentary, The Lost Century, I think he calls it. But yes, Dan's working very closely with Jen Han Eredyon. Oh, by the way, check out Elena Danaan's work. You can find her on Dr. Michael Saller's Exopolitics Today, which is superb. Do a search on there and you'll see loads of interviews on there. You'll find Dan on there as well. He's done 2 or 3 episodes with Michael on his excellent channel. And yes, Dan is going to reveal in this part 2, the technology that's been hidden, what's coming, and I'm so excited, this exciting new future that's incoming for humanity. So as always, thanks ever so much for watching. Please do subscribe in particular if you enjoy this show and you enjoy the content. Like, comment and share, but especially the subscribing, because to follow the channel, because it tells the YouTube algorithm that, wow, people are interested in this, and I want to get the wisdom. It's nothing to do with me. I don't get paid for this. I do it purely for the love of getting this incredible information out to other wonderful awakening beings just like you who need to hear it. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you soon.
This continues to evolve. As I get new information, I add new slides and everything. So your audience will be seeing things that have never been seen before on some of this.
Great.
1977, I had this extraterrestrial interaction with a being that projected in space a sphere that he was teaching me the structure of the matrix in relationship to consciousness. Elena identified, she had access to the database of the Federation, detailed 110 different extraterrestrial species, and identified this being as an emether. She pronounces it emether, so I may have the pronunciation wrong. A highly advanced being, not like a gray, but the incredible love coming out of its eyes. And I had a kundalini opening, millions of volts going through my hands and feet when I was having this experience, and put a passion in me to try to understand what this was all about. I didn't find out until last year. Jen Han, in our communications log, he says, the Emether are part of a science transfer program to Terra, working with other cultures such as Umite and Selosi. In fact, the Emether initiated this interaction I had. This Emether probably followed your development in your temporal implant and decided to provide you with science. Too, my friend, this is the science of the universe. He has prepared you, as the science transfer program allows, by modeling your understanding of the universe on a consciousness level, so that when the time comes, you will be able to understand the science that will be given to you to pass on to the Terrans. And so I guess that's what I'm doing, is passing on this knowledge to people of our planet. At the time in 1977, I didn't even know what platonic solids were, and how one fits into the other. And, it was like all new to me. It led me to, this was, 1977. So I grabbed every book I could. I even ordered books from England on sacred geometry. I wanted to try to understand what this was. And so it led me to ask the question, what is the geometrical nature of the matrix of reality and its interface with consciousness and its relationship with quartz crystals? As it appeared that the quartz crystals, when you look at folklore across the planet and everything, there's some scientific understanding that we don't quite fully understand yet. And so this led me to seek out Dr. Marcel Vogel. He's IBM's head scientist. He had like 140 patents. He developed the coding for magnetic hard drives. He developed the color phosphors for color television. He developed the liquid crystal displays that you're watching most likely. I don't think anybody's using, the old vacuum tubes. Anyway, for 17 years, he had an unusual man-plant communication experience that led him into crystals. I'm summating a lot of information, condensing it. And I went up to see him, and he actually dematerialized the tumor in front of a doctor and myself using his crystal with the technique he used. And he invited me to be a research associate. And he had this dream how to cut the crystal to be more of like a laser, to cohere the energies of mind. And so it was like the tree of life configuration. I traveled to the mines in Arkansas and drove all the way from Arkansas to San Jose with these huge batch of crystals, which he was cutting in his garage for 24 medical doctors. And one of the first crystals he cut as a gift for me. He started with 4 sides, and then he felt that the more sides, the more that there's a vortex running through the crystal, and that the more sides would increase the vortex spin. So he increased more sides, but he didn't know something about when you cut the crystal in alignment with the natural hexagonal core of the crystal and use specific geometry on the angles, it creates a very special effect within the crystal. He trained many doctors, successfully used this technique. I shared this techniques with Jen Han Eredyon, and he just thought they were great techniques. We researched ancient quartz artifacts such as the Michael Hedges skull. Marcel saw it was an information transfer device, like go from the older adept into a young girl, transfer the knowledge. And we find out from Jen Han Eredyon that quartz has this ability to embed consciousness in it. And that's how some of these spacecraft operate, with a crystal that's embedding consciousness that interfaces with the craft and the space arcs. As you know, JP had a crystal that activated the arc. I knew Dr. Ray Brown, who was treasure diving in the Bahamas, and a storm opened up this opening in this pyramid that he swam into. Now, my brother stayed with him for 2 weeks and wrote detailed notes that nobody has seen. That Elena did a beautiful rendering here of what the room looked like with this crystal. Here is a photograph I took of it. This was in Atlantis, in the capital city of Atla. That there was a falcon on the wall holding its sun in its talons with 7 beings on, and the gemstones, and these hands holding this crystal with a golden rod with a ruby crystal. The ruby crystal is actually a kind of a form of red mercury oxide that opens up a singularity vortex that Elena believed it was part of 7 scientists of Inky or Princea that was a meeting room and part of the Apakalu, she called it. And Jen Han said this crystal was a communicator to home. I'm summating here. One of the projects I worked on with Marcel, people talk about the med beds, about how they can tune through time, how the people who have been recruited in the 20 and back program that has age and time regress you back to your point of enlistment and wipe your memory. This time technology, I worked on a project that proved it. It was patented in the European Patent Office in Paris, France. Thousands of photos were made with it. It would project a holographic pattern of what you tuned in, say a drop of blood from a mother that's 50 miles away, tuned into her pregnancy. Here you can see it at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and 6 months, tuning through the holographic field of time. Here you can see the flower of a homeopathic remedy in a homeopathic pill being emanated. And here a seed of a lily flower showing the bulb cycle and tuning in forward in time into its flower cycle. It's incredible. So everything has within it this time vector. And this was developed by George Marjorie Delaware in the UK, and it was like hell trying to get it through customs, even back then, into Marcel's laboratory. And so the extraterrestrial technology, it can tune through this time. Alex Collier talked about how it takes a holographic photo of you and can tune through time to when your body was most optimal, where all the different parts of your body were optimal, your lungs, your eyes, every aspect of you. And then they make a composite of the optimal part of you. They project it onto you, and your body morphs into that. Incredible. Jen Han explained it, how this works. He says some medbeds use fractal holographic technology. Let me explain. The fractal core formula of the tissue to repair is recorded, and the perfect unaltered geometrical pattern is reconstructed and superimposed on the damaged pattern. The old pattern instinctively pairs and morphs into the new one because the universe tends to perfection. This is a key thought, that the universe is always tending toward perfection, and it's always tending to evolve. It's a holographic fractal repairing. Sound frequency used tying the new pattern to the old one. You remember how I explained holographic structures altered by frequency. This I thought is a beautiful, and it's so appropriate for right now. When Elena was on board Commander Haven's Metaton ship, she saw, they have time-looking devices. She saw 20 years in Earth's future, and it was a beautiful future. And Commander Haven said to her on December of 2022, all these technologies that you saw existing 20 years from now are being produced now in this precise moment. Everything is real. Everything exists already. It's time for when the people of Terra are ready, and the new leader will come, and the dark will vanish because the light will rise. All the real leaders will rise all over the planet Earth, as you call it. And it is now, very soon, the time when you stand up and take the hand we have held to you. Finally take it, and we are family. I thought that was such a beautiful statement, because it seems as though we're at that point with President Trump being inaugurated just yesterday on January 20th. Now, Elena was actually taken physically on board Thorhan's scout ship to the moon, where she actually saw huge, massive facilities where thousands of these medbeds are being prepared. And you imagine what an upheaval to the Earth's pharmaceutical, medical corporation system this would be, that all the hospitals are retrofitted with these new modalities of healing that use energetic technologies that can heal anything and extend our lives as well. This relates to the 20 and back technology. I've been researching since 1969 and all these witness testimonies. And then in the year 2000, and then all of a sudden you have these new people coming out saying they have total memory recall of 20 years service duty in space. And so I've been researching all of them. People, only a few have been able to substantiate some evidence, like Tompkins, my friend Tony Rodriguez, and Jean Charles Moyen, who actually on a French radio broadcast revealed his, and he recorded it. So all these, and then you have, whenever you have a lot of truth coming out, the deep state doesn't want the truth to come out. And so all of a sudden you have all these people coming out with similar sounding stories, but then throw in the lies and this to try to muddy the water, to confuse. So that's how you hide the truth, is you have people come out that are, I call them counter-disclosure assets. And this got me into researching Elena Danaan because, there's things that you just cannot make up. And when she wrote her book, Gift from the Stars, she detailed 3 planets in Proxima Centauri. It wasn't until the higher power space telescopes could see that there was 3 planets in Proxima Centauri that they didn't know anything about. Things you can't make up. Thorhan says, watch for Neptune. And all of a sudden, Neptune starts heating up. And here's one. Thorhan, back in 2022, was participating in some terraforming operations on Mars, and he contacted Elena and said, we just had a huge quake. Immediately, Elena, to document and time date stamp this, she immediately sends an email to Dr. Michael Salla and talks about the quake. 1 week later, NASA reports the largest quake ever recorded in our solar system on Mars. Things you just cannot make up,
Yeah.
And so Elena invited me on her show, told me about her contact, Thor Han Eredyon, High Commander in the Galactic Federation of Worlds. His younger brother at the time was going to university in the Pleiades, learning how to be a star maker or a terraformer. And he has an advanced understanding and knowledge, and I could ask him some questions. So you can imagine my enthusiasm for learning from a culture that's several hundred years in advance of us. And so one of the things that I found interesting, I don't recall my past life of being a scientist in Atlantis, and that of all things, my specialty was holographic medical science, which is interesting.
How funny.
Because we were having a conversation, and he said, Jen Han says, you don't want to know Atlantis, do you? You were there. I said, how do you know I was there? You have the ability to see in my past? He says, yes, I do, And he said I was one of a group of scientists that before the destruction of Atlantis, we traveled to different parts on the planet and hid technologies that would be discovered in the future. That's all he could tell me. So, my dear friend here, quartz crystals, purest material in the universe. It's so elaborate that it acts as a bridge because it's physically manifested on multiple densities and dimensions at the same time. It's the only thing that does that. And that tetrahedral fractal geometry is the secret of the universe. Our thoughts are geometric. When we think, there's these complex geometric patterns that are projected out. Same thing, Dr. Marcel. Everything that Jen Han said matched exactly what in the laboratory research Marcel Vogel did, matched up. And that breath carries consciousness. And Marcel found this out when he was doing man-plant communications. He was able to talk to a split-leaf philodendron in San Jose all the way from Plovdiv, Czechoslovakia, and cause the script chart to wiggle. And he found that pulsing his breath was the most effective, through the nose, like a Kundalini breath of fire type of pulse. And love, of course, is the connecting pulse through all that connects to all beings throughout the universe, and it's what transcends the densities. And water, quartz, crystals, all, and love as well, all based on the same core fractal formula. So he's giving me these formulas of how the universe is all based on these certain core fractal formulas. And as we know, water can exhibit all the major crystallographic forms in nature, which reveal it's universally resonant. And Dr. Emoto showed that dissonant thoughts cannot take form into the water because, as Jen Han says, dissonant cannot attune to an ordered state of geometrical resonance. The structure of the matrix we are in is a ordered geometrical structure of resonance, which dissonance cannot attune to, and that through love, it bridges us from one density into the next higher density. And creator source, of which we are all fractal of, creator source is dual in nature, and we are dual in nature and creative as well. And at the highest level, it's pure love and pure perfection. So the universe tends toward this. It never quite reaches it, but it always tends toward perfection and love. Frill. Frill is like the life force of the universe. It's what they have different names on Earth.
Like prana? Or would you?
Yeah,
Is that same as prana?
Viril. They call it chi. There's a
Chi, ki.
lot.
Yeah.
All the different names. It's all semantics. It's all this life force of the universe. It's the most powerful source you can imagine. It's energy created from gravity waves and what you named the ether. I'll just go over this really quickly. This is how the spacecraft work. They have these crystals in the central core, which an impulse creates these compression waves, which generate the frill. The crystals store the frill in the central core and convert this power into like this red ionized mercury plasma that are in these two perpendicular toroids that are they're at 90 degrees to each other. And so you have this high spinning mercury plasma that cancels mass and operates for the anti-gravity propulsion system for their craft. This is one of our science team members, Chris Asson in France. Einstein, said the ether doesn't exist, gravity's due to the curvature of space, speed of light is constant. All wrong. Tesla and Jen Han have it correct. Ether is the basic brick of the universe. That light is a wave in the ether. Energy is movement and pressure of it. Gravity is an accelerated wind of the ether. And the speed of light is actually variable, like in a fluid. It goes into more stuff. Anyway, this is how they power their planet. It says, in my home world, I have a power generator. They don't use coal and nuclear and oil and things like we do and run wires all over the planet, that distribute power. How they do it is wirelessly. And it says, in my home world, we have power generators, such as from Atla. He's always trying to trigger my memory. I wish we could converse with you directly from face to face. How exhilarating it would be, because we're always doing relaying.
Maybe one day you will, Dan.
What's that?
Maybe one day you will get to converse
we're
face to
planning
face.
on it. We're definitely planning on it as soon as the restrictions are lifted. Anyway, on Era, we do have central power plants, pyramidal power plants with a tall natural crystal in the central core. The frill is harvested and collected in the top of the pyramid and resonated, or may you understand better the term teleported, to smaller devices that we call secondary generators. These transpond the frill for and towards the power web of our cities. In the countryside settings, each house can have its own small replica of the big power generators. That's what we created. Or we can have a generator that supplies a whole community. That's how we have it organized here. It supplies to all the habitats. Their older sister, Shaya Eredyon, she's 160 years old. They age much better than we do. They live
Yeah, I think
900
they do. Yeah.
to 1500 years. She's a temple generator attendant and technician on Planet Era. Elena was shown, this is from her book, The Cedars. I highly recommend this book to everyone. It gives the whole history of how we came to how we are today, in the original seeding of our planet. You can see that they're wrapped in two different types of metals. And so through the communications with Jen Han, he's given me the technical construction details on how to create a frill generator crystal. And so working together with my science team, where you can see the copper and the silver perpendicular. There's two fields. There's an etheric field and an electromagnetic field that conjugate with the crystal's field. We had to make a coil form for the copper and the silver. One's for the electromagnetic, one's for the etheric. We pulse them alternately at 4096 hertz. This creates a torsion field, similarly like the spaceship, that opens up the eye within the crystal at frequency of 4096 hertz, which is a very important frequency because it's the resonant frequency of the quartz. And so we built this and we presented it to about 850 people in Orlando, Florida with my science team for the first time on our planet.
Wow.
The first prototype version was made on Earth. These are other technology applications, for reality modulator, crystal healing work. Don't really have time to go into all of it. I'll just go in real quickly.
I'm guessing, Dan, you must have to tread very, very carefully with the development of this.
Yeah. This is a summation of many exchanges.
Yeah, but I mean, given our conversation earlier about what's happened to people who've tried to release stuff like this in the past.
Yeah. The frill, it's healing. It'll go in your body and repair disharmonics. It's healing. Yeah. So we're working on developing that. Use agricultural, health, well-being. There's a reality transflux modulator, which I activated last year in front of 1,000 people. And we altered
to modify the holographic matrix and alter reality. That is profound.
Yeah, it's very profound. Yeah, we can actually alter the structure of reality with consciousness. Crystal healing work, these new methods, which are on marcelvogel.org, that Una, who is of the Cedars, and Jen Han have both shared techniques. Our engineer made a device that clears the crystal. Very important to clear the crystal every time you use it, so
it's not transferring onto the next person.
And water. Yeah. I always use on my water. I resonate the water. It has a healing effect. This is wild. You can do the vortex horizon curve of frequencies, and it causes a saturation point to reach in the crystal. After you have to disconnect immediately, though, when it reaches that point. It'll be charged with frill, which is healing, but if it go past that point, the crystal will implode, become light, and transcends matter and density. You don't want that to happen. And I harped on him for months to try to get this exercise. This is their Dorn Dorhu. They're kind of a Pleiadian yoga practice of how to regenerate your DNA. And it's very simple. It's a pulse breath. It feeds upward vortex through your chakras, and it will. What it does is it reconnects the hydrogen links between the chromosome intra-elements. DNA can be transmuted into a stable state of auto-regeneration once you unlock the blocks that keep the strands disconnected from the morphogenic field of the universe. So this connects you more with that universal field that is rejuvenating to you. So, and all these are detailed. All these notes are detailed on marcelvogel.org, so people can look that up. And I'll try to go through this rapidly. The crystal science. Una, who's 20,000 years more advanced, she says, quartz is a transponder by nature. It connects to points on the grid of space. It vibrates not only on the grid lattice of space, but also on the lattice of time. Your science will soon discover this. Quartz is the highest state of solid matter before the state of light. That is why quartz can heal tissue. This is quite fascinating. She says, their knowledge of the crystal technology is 20,000 years ahead of the Pleiadian. In fact, Jen Han's going to go on board an Altian ship, and Una's going to kind of take her under his wing and teach him some new things. And he's totally excited about learning from such a highly advanced race.
I'm excited just hearing it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And she says, it doesn't organize matter on a molecular level, but it repairs by transponding the injured organic tissues with a vibratory key of a previous state before the alteration was made. Let's say you damaged your arm severely, right? But in the fabric of time, that's within the crystal, is that previous state of matter that before the injury or alteration was made. And so within the crystal, it vibrates that frequency key because the universe tends to perfection, and because it will tend to resonate with a more resonant pattern, it will, as she says, I'll go by her words, not mine. It repairs by transponding injured organic tissues with a vibratory key of a previous state of matter before the alteration of matter was made. It reorganizes dissonance with a resonant template. So when you put a resonant template on a dissonant pattern, what happens is, as Jen Han said previously, because it tends to perfection, it will... and it's all driven by consciousness. Vogel cut crystals, when it's cut in perfect alignment with the lattice structure, and this is how the Pleiadians form their crystals. And Marcel would have loved to have known this knowledge. When you cut it in alignment vertically and laterally, and cut the angles at 60 degrees and 51.843, we're calling this cut in honor of the legacy of Dr. Marcel Vogel and the wonderful knowledge that Jen Han has shared with us. We're calling it a Vogel Eredyon crystal. And why the 51.843 degree angle? Just exactly like the Great Pyramid in Egypt. This is a ratio that acts as a transponder. It's dynamic geometry. Some shapes, because of their proportions, naturally affect the holographic structure of the matrix. We use a specific pyramidal ratio to build our frill generators because the geometrical structure of the central crystal in a generator will interface with the pyramidal ratio of the building. So it harvests the etheric energy. And why the 60-degree angle? Is because the center angle must be in resonance with the geometry of the holographic matrix of the receiver. I remember I said earlier that the secret of the universe is the tetrahedral fractal geometry. And so when you look at a tetrahedron, all angles are 60 degrees. So it's like form resonance with the tetrahedral lattice structure. And interesting, Egyptian obelisks always have a 60 degrees on the top. And so modifying the matrix of reality. Jen Han said to me, I was told the mission you have chosen, I guess I chose a mission, in teaching the Terrans how they can change their reality. You always knew this. Teach them how to activate the vortex and how to modify the holographic matrix. So this information was forbidden by the Prime Directive, but he was authorized by the Galactic Federation of Worlds to answer all my questions, right? And that's how it works. He can't just tell me everything, but if I happen to ask the right question, The following information was previously forbidden by the Prime Directive to be shared. Jen Han Eredyon was able to obtain special authorization from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. This was based on a question I asked regarding the interdimensional portal between the charge triads and the crystal's lattice structure. Jen Han had to answer this after he got authorization. He says, it works by finding the phase conjugation node inside the crystal, by projecting inwards the geometrical shapes of the two opposite points, like a mirror. There is the vortex singularity of the crystal. Focus your thought and energy just there, and you may project your consciousness to anywhere you wish in this universe, to other universes, to other densities, other dimensions. Anything is accessible in space, dimension, and time. This is great power, Elena. Elena's relaying this. It is very important information. I am honored to be allowed to share this with you. Well, this information that he's sharing with me happens to be the basis of how they power their entire planet. Mm. So now I'm honored to be able to share this information with all of you. In the Flower of Life, which is a blueprint, you can see these geometries of hexagonal, pentagonal, the 51.843, 60 degrees. He says the ratio of hexagonal, pentagonal, multi-layered blueprint applied to a living organism will produce cellular evolution. Humans, plants, stars, and so on. This ratio is the key to life and also represented in a blueprint, as the Flower of Life. Those who understand the secret geometry of the Flower of Life can create universes and life forms to populate them. So all these geometry angles that we're talking about are within that. And it's within this pentagonal, hexagonal geometry is within our DNA. The relationship of these angles of 60 degrees is related to the hexagonal. The receptive end, this is like the receiving end, this is like the active sending end, is related to pentagonal or golden mean geometries, such as the Great Pyramid and so forth. These two angles of geometries create different vortex spins. He says the two dynamics counter-rotate and meet at the vortex singularity. Because of this counter-rotating dynamics, the vortex is opened by phase conjugation of the two frequencies. At the same frequency, I asked, well, what happens if they're the same angle? He said they just cancel each other out. He said, you need a difference in the speed rate to create a dynamic for the experience to tend toward perfection. And since nothing in the universe ever reaches the absolute point of perfection, the universe is alive through the dynamics of evolution. And so this is how the Pleiadians convert etheric energy into physical reality. The 51.843 degree angle geometry transpons the etheric energy on this end, and it's a vortex going in one direction. And the 60-degree angle geometry imprints it into the holographic matrix of the universe, into physical reality. This is the 60-degree angle. This is a great network, and this is how we implement the etheric energy into physical reality, and this is how the liminal geometric point of transfluxation, that's why I call it a reality transflux modulator, because intentions of consciousness are modulating the eye of the crystal. And this is how the intentions of consciousness to imprint a geometric thought pattern. So how this works is the intentions of consciousness, which your thought patterns are geometric. And once your pineal gland, which is an interdimensional vortex, links into this open singularity vortex of the eye of the crystal, it modulates the reality and forms it into the physical reality. Now, I sent him this image, was done back in the 70s, of a Kirlian photograph of the energy coming off of a pyramid. And he said, a pyramidion creates a frill vortex. A frill is the etheric energy. The vortex you depict in this visual is the etheric energy harvested by the pyramidion. His name for a pyramid. The dynamic influx of the harvested energy, the mathematical ratio of the pyramidion, generates a double-coiled torsion field. And here you can see this double-coiled torsion field. Oh, almost looks like a DNA.
DNA, yeah, it does.
He says the two dynamics twirling in opposite direction create a phase-conjugated tension that creates a singularity in the hologram, a convergence of infinite power. And so these two torsion fields coming together, they're counter-rotating where they meet into what's called the eye of the crystal. This is an animation by my dear friend Seth Zach, Elena's sister, that illustrates they come together and create this singularity vortex. But nothing happens until you activate the vortex. And how you activate it is by piezoelectrically stimulating, either by electronic pulses or by physical pressure. It needs to be piezoelectrically stimulated, creates a dynamic reaction between the two polarities of the charge triads, and creates an exponential reaction that triggers the singularity portal because it's physically manifested on multiple dimensions. And there is like this huge trillions of these charge triads. When the charge centers are displaced, it opens up the singularity vortex. How you find it on the crystal that's cut correctly with those angles is where these angles meet is approximate location of the eye of the crystal. And this area needs to be, you can have inclusions in the crystal, but not in this area. You can find this by, using rulers. I put a little piece of tape on the crystal here to, you can see this thing. Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, along the where you put your fingers out. What happens is when you squeeze it a little bit, it doesn't give much. It's very hard in the crystal, but your intentions goes through your fingers tips, and the vortex opens just momentarily. But if you want to keep the vortex open all the time, Elena and I sent her some silver coins, and we ground them down. And she picked up a function generator. And so we both hooked our crystals up. She was using a candle holder. I was using plumbing parts initially, pulsing them at 20 hertz, and it opened up the singular vortex. Thorhan checked, and it did open up, and there's some amazing stories. I don't have time to say all the stories that happen. But this is what the current designs of the reality transflux modulator, suspending the crystal so the crystal can oscillate freely. Silver electrodes pulse and open up that vortex in the crystal. And your brainwaves need to be to be effective, to be in the gamma brainwave level. Your pineal gland. Jen Han said, quote, "The crystals in your pineal gland are calcium carbonate." You can see a electron microscope picture of these calcium carbonate crystals, which are organically produced by the tissues of the human body. These microcrystals generate an electromagnetic field, at the center of which is an interdimensional vortex for consciousness. This is how your soul animates your avatar that you're operating, is through the pineal gland. And it's this pineal gland vortex that interfaces with the crystal vortex that allows it to, you can prepare vision clearly in your mind, sense the open vortex, take a deep breath, pulse your breath with loving intention, in sync with the breath pulse, and that's how you do it. And then he gave the basis of infinite. We're in a dimensional bubble that has 12 densities, and of the there's infinite number of dimensional densities in the multiverse. It's all based on this flower of life pattern and the geometry of it. 13th is not a density, but its actual source. And source, as we mentioned, is the higher densities affect and form the lower densities. The lower densities don't affect and form the higher densities. And so when you use a crystal in this manner, it connects to what's called the void. Now, Elena on board the Nibiru craft actually saw what source looked like. And you'd think, I had a time wrapping my head around this, but the flower of life pattern, is like perfect geometry, right? But because the multiverse is in what's called the void, and the void is outside of time and space, it's in non-linear space, you have all these variations. And just like in nature, you have all these approximations of golden mean ratios and all these forms and everything. You have all this diversity. And so these bubbles are all of different sizes and different interfacing with they have different number of densities and everything. And we're in one of these bubbles that has the 12 densities. And the void, which is outside of time and space, because when the vortex singularity opens up in the crystal, it connects to the void, and the void connects to the highest level, which is level of source. And so when you imprint a pattern at that level, because it's going through the void, which is outside of time and space, it lasts forever and perpetuates, because there is no time in the void. So, we did some experiments. Elena and I we had 1,700 people, all projected positive timeline, and had a spike on the Schumann resonance at the moment that we all did that. And Jen Han, I asked him, does this have anything to do with what we did? And he said, of course it has an effect. There's a ratio of the population that needs to be gathered to produce a visible disturbance, and you did it that day. The brainwaves emitted by all living creatures on this planet are in interresonance with the ionosphere shell. In the 1980s, I worked with scientist Dr. Robert Beck, who substantiated this. He's measuring people around the world that their brainwaves are connecting in with the Schumann resonance, which looks like a brainwave if you measure it, and that our minds are all interfaced with this. So don't ever think you're an island all by yourself. Every thought you think is putting out there into the collective and affects it. And thanks to the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and that was the turbo version of some of the things that I've learned and some of the technologies that we're attempting to develop with the science team to be of some practical use on our planet. And it's kind of exciting. We just delivered 4 crystals to Elena of the Jen Han Eredyon cut. One is for Elena, one is for Una, and one's for Jen Han, and one's for Thor Han. So little gratitude from our planet to all the knowledge they have shared. So please hit me with some questions while we have we have some time. I've kind of sucked up a lot in trying to go over that even quickly.
No problem, Dan. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, I'm going to have to watch that back myself, because there's so much incredible information in that. Because as a lifelong science geek myself, I am fascinated by what you've shared, not just in terms of the technology, but of course how that works with consciousness as well. I think one of the most important things that I could ask you in terms of anybody who's watching this show and this episode is, given that incredible information that you've shared and what you're up to, what's the most important message that you have for humanity right now moving forward?
That we're entering a beautiful golden age, and this brilliant genius disclosure plan has been activated and is currently rolling out to acclimate our citizens. Eventually, this will lead to, we're currently on probation, but we will lead to joining these other civilized cultures across the galaxy, the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Once we have joined, and then imagine the incredible, we'll have access to all the technology they have access to. Imagine the transformation. And and of course, it's like Thorhan said, the most important thing is to raise our frequency and love and kindness. And I think spreading awareness is important. That's why I do these shows. I have zero financial interest in any of this. I just am humbled and honored to be able to receive this information and share it with people.
Yeah, no, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. You've said many times, and it's something I find fascinating, that the universe is holographic.
Yes.
Can you explain, from your perspective, what that means and how we could work with that in our everyday lives?
Consciousness source is always fractalizing itself. And the matrix that source fractalizes itself into is based on this tetrahedral fractal geometry that creates the holograms of the universe. And that is, it's revealed, such as, the Delaware camera I worked with, when you take a drop of blood to that mother that's 50 miles away. What is that drop of blood? Why can I tune into all her organs and look at everything? Because it's a fractal representation of the whole, and that kind of substantiates that indeed the universe is holographic.
Right, it's amazing. So basically, even us in these human vehicles are a fractal of the whole universe, basically.
Yeah. It's even in ancient Chinese, where in your hands and your ears, your feet, it's like you can every part is like a representation of the whole.
Yeah, which is why what of course acupuncture is based on, isn't it?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard you say, Dan, that if we have perfect, let me just have a look at it, perfect coherency of thought, then we can manifest anything materially. Tell us a bit more about that, and why don't you think people do it?
The first part of that is perfect what?
Perfect coherency of thought.
Because it's like, and it's one of the new questions I'm asking Jen Han. There's a time factor, as the masters in the Far East, they say they hold out their hand and manifest an apple because they first of all they know they have the power to create. They can completely visualize it. On marcelvogel.org, Jen Han gives an exercise how to create holograms with your mind, which is critical in the use of doing healing work. He gives an example of how to create a flower in your hand and to visualize every aspect of it and then actually create it into an etheric form. It from consciousness into physical manifestation forms according to, as I say, seeing is believing, right? And so, and the skeptics, you gotta do that, it's like, and I remember back when I was working with the government on all those communication satellites and stuff like that. There was a worker I worked with who didn't believe that I could make this twirler inside of a glass jar, so there's no wind currents. I can make it rotate with my mind. Now, I was able to do it when he wasn't around, but I had him over to my house and I was going to show him that I could do it. But his belief that I couldn't do it was stronger than my belief that I could do it. And so
wow.
It's he kind of override, so, it's like the coherency of thought. This is why Marcel was trying to, like a laser is basically, you have two mirrors, one's 100%, one's 99%. You flash the ruby crystal and they're spaced in such a way that the wavelength, every subsequent oscillation builds upon itself and stronger and stronger and stronger. And so that 1% that comes off one end is strong enough to cut through steel because of the built coherency. So, I don't know if that answered your question adequately.
Yeah, no, it did. It did. It just, I thought it was, I thought it was fascinating because I've seen as well accounts of these masters who could literally materialize anything in their hands, food, gold.
Yeah,
You
like bending
name it.
spoons. Once you do it.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had a young brother who just thought it was all nonsense, and he was looking at Uri Geller's information, and he took him, it was like 6 hours working on trying to bend a spoon. But then he did. And once he did, all sorts of things were going crazy around the house. You know, and then, once you open that doorway and once you know you can do it, it's different than when you've never done it before and you're not sure if you can,
Yeah, it must change your life forever. I've sat there for ages, just like trying to move a pen on a table using telekinesis, and it's funny because I can feel the energy inside me, but I just can't seem to quite work with it in a coherent way. I would probably just need to practice a bit more. But yeah, it must be pretty incredible when that happens for the first time.
Yeah, my friend Jean-Charles Moyen, he is a secret space program witness that he can move objects with his mind and makes the lights and everything go off and on. And he has incredible gamma brainwave production that's off the charts. So yeah, some people have it more developed than others.
Yeah, I saw him on Michael Thaler's excellent Exopolitics Today show talking about teleportation experience.
Oh yeah,
that
he naturally, without assistive
accidentally,
technology, he can teleport. Yeah, he's definitely from another world.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, thinking about just wrapping up, then, just a quick sort of final three questions for you, then, Dan. What are you most excited about right now?
Say it one more time.
What are you most excited about right now?
Oh, I'm most excited about the new presidential administration that just got brought into operation, and that all the executive orders that the previous are being countered, and new executive orders are being brought out. That is last time he did an inauguration, he talked about the mysteries of space, and the miseries of disease. I'm seeing not in too distant future where we'll see these advanced technologies that I know the med beds are first going to be available to many of the veterans, military, and then after that the children. You can imagine the horrific things that have been done. I understand some of the med technology can help heal psychological trauma, and then after that the general public. But it won't be, it doesn't matter how famous you are or how much money you have. Everything will be according to the severity of your condition. The ones that are most severe get the front of the line. So that's only fair.
Yeah, as it should be. I totally agree.
So I'm excited about what's the disclosure that's happening, and the awareness that's spreading, and because of shows like yours that are helping to bring about just people have to research for themselves and determine. You can't tell people about all this stuff. It's like it really does keep its own best secrecy because it is so far removed from our normal reality that only because my experience in the military and over the decades researching and then experiencing firsthand what the media did back in 2001. And, because I'm retired, I have lots of time. Nobody has lots of time to research all this stuff, and so the majority of the public are just trying to function and survive. So, I just want to be a supportive voice to the many voices that are attempting to awaken humanity to this reality. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. It's great to have you on, because this is the whole point of the show is to get this wisdom, this wonderful wisdom, out into the rest of the world to really help with not just the awakening process, but, as you've shared so beautifully in the presentation, the effect that has collectively on the morphogenic field and literally the creation of reality. So yeah, it's
hope
amazing.
is so important. Don't go into fear.
Yeah.
If you create the reality, we each are creative. And so when you are in a level of great hope, you're helping to form that reality.
Yeah.
You don't want to fear the thing you fear.
Yeah, so true. One of my favorite questions that I ask right at the end, Dan, is I want you to imagine that you've just got into a time machine. Again, given what we've just talked about, you probably can imagine that. But imagine you've just got into a time machine, you feel it traveling through time and space. The doors open, and there's 12-year-old Dan Willis stood in front of you. What 2 pieces of advice would you give that young boy?
Somebody from the future or past?
So you now going back to 12-year-old you in a time machine.
Oh, okay. Back to what?
Back to you at 12 years old.
Oh, 12 years. That was a good age.
Yeah.
I liked 11 too.
What 2 pieces of advice would you give 12-year-old you?
Oh, I'd blow. I often think about. Back when I was a kid, I was 11 years old or so, and I would love science fiction movies, the Day the Earth Stood Still and Forbidden Planet and all these incredible, and I used to think how incredible it would be to have exchanges with advanced off-planet cultures like that are thousands of years ahead of us. I was just into reading Mad Magazine and that sort of thing when I was 12 years old. I would say, don't freak out. I'm just you from the future. And that a lot of the stuff that you thought was science fiction in the movies is actually real. And, it's strange you asked that question, because when I was about that age, I thought we had already been to Mars and to all the planets. And I also remember this wave of disappointment that went over me when my mother said, oh, in the future, they're planning on going to the moon. And I thought, what? We haven't been to all the planets? And it's like... yeah, that's a really interesting question, going back in time to talk to your younger self, and what could you possibly say that would give you a key to what you'd be doing in the future? that sounds like a science fiction movie.
Yeah, it sounds like 11-year-old you was much wiser than your mum realized, because you must have known somehow that actually, we actually already have been to all of the solar system.
I was a happy kid when I was 11. I remember saying to myself, I want to be 11 years old forever, I don't want to grow up.
Oh, that's so sweet. I can relate to that so much. So finally, Dan, where can people find your work and where can people connect with you?
Well, 2 websites. One is actually an evolution from that article I wrote for that media company that I decided to put it online because, it's like a Pandora's box. Once you start to open, can't stop questioning and asking more questions. And so I put it up on thewebmatrix.net, thewebmatrix.net. And it's basically a chronology from the year 1900 to somewhat present day. I kind of gave up after a certain point. I kind of link everything over to elenadenan.org and exopolitics.org. they're on the leading edge of what's going on. After you get to a certain point, you get it, and there's not really, if somebody hasn't figured it out by the year, 2022 or whatever, you're not going to get it. And the other one regarding the crystal work that I did with Marcel in the 80s, and the crystal work I've done with Jen Han Eredyon currently, is at in honor of Marcel. I put together the site, marcelvogel.org. And my contact email is on there if anybody wants to reach out. And it's been a real honor to join you.
No, thank you. And I'll make sure that that's in the show notes as well. So, I really appreciate that. And as always, for everybody still watching, thank you ever so much for tuning in. And please do subscribe, comment, like, and share this episode, and follow the channel if you enjoyed it. I hope you got as much joy from Dan's conversation as I did. I'm really going to have to go back and listen to that again. There's so much incredible information. But Dan, thank you so much. It's been a real honor to have you here, and I'm really grateful that you've shared your time with us today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, all my honor and pleasure.
Appreciate it. And for everybody else, I will see you next time, and thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.